Champéry?
Champéry.
Let's talk about Champéry.
Can you remember the first time you raced Champéry?
Champéry, Q1 run as well.
Whoa! Big crash!
I think Champéry uniqueness would be the steepness.
Look at the speed he's going, Rob!
And the weather. You never know what it's going to do, really.
To go down it fast would require insane skills and balls.
Danny Hart 4.6 seconds up! That is insane!
It's the greatest downhill race run of all time. To win Worlds by 12 seconds, that is untouchable.
Do you think it was the most iconic?
I do, yeah. I'm not going to be humble, you know, I do think it is.
In the world of mountain biking, there's one race that stands above all others, the World Championships. One single run, one shot, no second chances. Back in 2011, on an impossibly steep Swiss mountainside, a 19-year-old outsider lined up against the biggest names in the sport. What followed wasn't just a race run, it became one of the most iconic moments in downhill mountain bike history. But behind the chaos, the weather, and the now legendary commentary, there's a bigger story to tell, of pressure, of failure, of triumph, and of a run that still echoes through the sport today. 14 years on, Danny Hart returns to the mountain that made him a legend. But what really happened that day? Let's rewind and hear the story, told by his rivals, the men who brought the run to life, and even Danny himself. Was it just an incredible win, or the moment a legend was born? Champéry wasn't just another downhill race. This was the World Championships. Unlike the World Cup Series, where consistency wins titles, this was all or nothing. And in 2011, it was on one of the steepest, most intimidating racetracks ever built. Even on a good day, this track was feared. But that weekend, the Swiss mountains of the Porte du Soleil had other ideas.
The first thing that comes into my mind would be sitting in the start line and it just being a river in front of me, and I was like, right, well, I'll just get in there and stay in there all the way down to the bottom. It's just unreal to ride. It's like riding a roller coaster.
Yeah, Champéry. First time I raced Champéry, I think, was in 2009 or 2010. I didn't race it the first year they ever raced it, which I think it was like more natural then and even gnarlier because it was a fresh track. But I think it was just hard to put into words like the steepness of it. And then when you ride it, it's just super committed, like it's just steep. Like you get into some sections and you're making it to the bottom, like regardless of if you're on the brakes or not. Like
not even exaggerating, you can go down the track just as fast with no chain as you can with the chain. Like it literally, when you're going up on the chair, you're going up over cliffs. It is so steep. You can stand on the track and touch the side of the mountain with your hand.
Wow.
Like, it's the most gravity-assisted track there is.
Did you say you actually camped next to Danny?
Yeah, so I was 12 and this is such a high memory of me, but we were in the same parking pretty much next to Danny Hart. I remember just being such a fan of him. I was literally being like, oh my God, it's Danny. I didn't realize how young he was actually. Like now when I realized, I didn't realize he was only 19. Now when I think about it, I'm like, fuck, he was such a nice dude and so down to earth for being a 19-year-old kid who's coming podium and stuff. And yeah, we just camped in the same parking lot or next to him. The family was just so nice and Danny was just insane.
Well, I actually tried to ride down it. That was quite entertaining. Yeah, it was bloody steep, it was. That was the thing with it. It's so steep. It was back then, it was super tech. I mean, it's no problem to ride down it, but to ride down it fast and have it as a racetrack, especially back then, you know, it was... Yeah, I remember the bikes weren't quite as good as they are now as well, but it was overwhelmingly steep, yeah, and to go down it fast, really fast, would require insane skills and balls, to be quite honest, yeah.
The first time we went to Champéry was 2007 for World Cup, which is, you know, was another iconic day in the history of downhill, where Sam Hill, you know, had that incredible run in the wet, and the track was just so much different to the other World Cup tracks up until that point. It was just way steeper, so you know there was no part of the track other than right at the bottom where, you know, you needed to generate speed or really carry speed. It was more of scrubbing speed off and getting down the track. I think a lot of riders at that time, because the track was so different, were a bit out of their comfort zone, and they didn't quite know how to ride it. Such a super steep and unique track compared to most of the other venues in the World Cup.
Can you remember the first time you raced Champéry and what you thought of it?
Champéry, they've kind of all blended together because it's always been kind of wet, muddy and pretty tricky. I don't remember the start or any of my run, which is crazy because I can go back to some races and I remember rocks, roots, fine detail, but for some reason I've got like a mental block against Champéry. I mean, I guess when the first time we went there, walking the track and slipping and dislocating my shoulder didn't help. I didn't really fall in love with the place because of that. And it was always wet, and it was always really gnarly.
Quali went to plan. Aaron Gwin, the man of the season, fastest. Greg Minnaar right there behind him. Everyone's favourite for the stripes. And then there was Danny Hart, 19 years old, quick, but no one had him down as a real threat. Then Sunday came, and the weather forecast that riders feared was correct. A heavy storm rolling in from the west arrived by mid-morning and drenched the valley with showers of biblical proportions. With large sections of the track only accessible by helicopter in the event of an accident, there was a significant chance of cancellation, but the decision was made. The race would go ahead. Can you remember the atmosphere building up to race day, knowing that that rain was coming?
No, not really. No, I don't. I don't even know if everybody knew it was coming. I'll tell you what was worse, that week on the mornings, if we had early morning practice, the morning dew on that track is absolutely brutal. Like, you can barely get down it. So on the day of the final, just before the first road crossing, there's some techie bits with roots going here, there and everywhere. And I had a big crash, snapped my rear mech off, had to ride down, smashing the back end of my bike up. So I think it was my final practice run before the race. A big crash, I was fine, but obviously that right before a final can knock you a little bit. But and then even to this day, when we'll be in a start or we'll be warming up and the heavens will open, really doesn't bother me. It's like almost like the pressure's off now, because like, let's say you did or you didn't have a great qualifying and you've been a bit anxious and you don't know how it's going to go. When that rain comes down, it's happened a few times in Mont Saint-Anne actually, and yeah, you're just like, right, well now what will be will be. And I can't remember when we last had driving rain like that in a race run.
Yeah, it was basically a monsoon, wasn't it? Got up in the morning, it was raining, and then it just continued to be a monsoon all day long actually. And I think if it had stopped raining, then that track might have been in real trouble. But as it stood with the rain coming down, it did offer some grip actually, which added to the spectacle really, didn't it? Do you know what I mean? The fact that it was wet, but someone with Danny's skills could still ride it that fast.
Sometimes a bit of rain makes a track slick. If it's been super bone dry and then it rains, it for the first, however many runs, it's really slick because it's a hard base underneath and then it's just a slick surface on top. But I think, once it's been chucking it down for a long time, the track then becomes grippy again, as long as the water's running down the track. But then mentally, for a rider, you've got to be that mentally strong to attack in the rain like it's dry, which is obviously what Danny did on his World Champs winning run.
The rain failed to relent, and by the time the big names dropped in, the track was wrecked. Riders weren't facing the clock anymore, they were just trying to survive. Crashes, stalls, mud so deep you could barely see the lines. For some, it was over before it even began. Talk me through your run. So, what do you remember about your run?
I usually didn't have like super specific game plans for my race runs, like certain parts of the track, but that track was kind of broken up into like top half of the track, bottom half of the track. The top half was definitely more tacky and rooty and like you had to be careful. And then there was like a bridge halfway down or a little bit further than halfway down where you like went across the paved road and then dropped into the bottom section of the track. And that section was like more ruts and berms and like it just had more support where you could push harder. So I remember having like a pretty specific game plan for that race where like I just wanted to really manage and be smooth at the top. And then kind of my thing was like, as soon as you get past that road, then like turn it on a bit and you can like let it hang out. So I was just trying to be really smooth at the top and not make any mistakes and just kind of ride a little bit more conservative, I would say. And I remember the run was just going good. Like I was just being patient, I wasn't making mistakes. Just kind of everything was going to plan. And I don't know if I just kind of let my mind get a little too far ahead of me, but basically the section right before the bridge where you cross that road, you just came into this wood section really hot, and there was some doubles you could kind of do coming in natural, and then it like banked left onto the shelf, and the shelf had like no support, and there's just a big catch net on the outside, and I think I just got a little bucked coming in, and just it was like one of those things like if you ride trail bikes on trails and you come into a corner, it's a little hot, and you hit the brakes and the bike kind of like stands up, and then you slowly just like can't hold it, and you just really slowly ride off the outside of the track. I basically did that, and I got caught in the catch net, and that was the end of the run.
You know, there weren't even that many splits. I mean, I looked at Roots and Rain, and
The second split was 3 minutes into the run. So that's how.
I was 9 seconds down.
You were 9 seconds down at the first split.
I mean, I was always slow at starting, right? But that seems a little bit off the back.
So let's just talk about the actual day. So did you have any expectations or goals going into that weekend? And also, did your team, like Giant at the time, have any expectations for you back then?
Well, yeah, for sure, because even in 2010 in Champéry, I think I qualified in the top 10, potentially 5th or 6th. But 2011, all season, I was battling for wins. It was Aaron Gwin's like his famous year, and a couple of weeks before Champéry, we were in Val de Sol, and I had a second. So I knew going into Champéry that it could be mine for the taking. I knew that there was potential that we could do something special there, and I guess the team would as well. We'd had a really successful World Cup campaign, and yeah, World Champs even then was always like, I feel less pressure to me. Other people see it maybe as more pressure, one run, yada yada yada, but for me, one run is what it is, you know, you just all or nothing for your one run, and what will be will be. Nobody will hold anything against you if you crash going for it, or so yeah, I knew that I could do something good, and we did.
And then came Danny, nicknamed the Red Car Rocket, from the northeast of England and just 19 years of age. Middle of the pack, no real pressure, just a teenager rolling into the gate. Nobody knew what was about to happen, or did they?
And this is the danger man to me. This is the guy I think might win it this afternoon.
Where everyone else looked like they were fighting the track, Danny looked like he was attacking it. Confident, committed. Had someone failed to tell him the conditions had changed? By the first split, it was clear he wasn't just surviving, he was destroying the field. So, first split, Danny was 4.6 seconds up, and Page's reaction was...
God, is that when I reach for the other beer? Probably.
Probably, but like Page basically sees the 4.6 seconds and just shouts, yes! And like impartiality like completely went out the window at that point.
It's not commentary, we're just cheering our mate on. Which is actually almost a thing, and actually, you know, it's not only happened on his run then, but like, yeah, if it's one of your good mates or someone you really like or someone you really like admire or look up to doing good, you know, you're behind them, and it's quite hard actually not to just cheer them on sometimes. That's the truth. Yeah, so hopefully I was a bit more professional and pagey there and kept the commentary slightly on track. I don't know.
You know what though, like because it's so unexpected to sort of have the commentators like cheering on someone that is what made it so good.
Yeah, because it's real, isn't it? It's like just emotion coming out. Really, it's like we cannot believe what we're seeing here. We can't believe it. And as the run goes on, I remember just filling up like more and more. Like, oh my God, don't fuck this up. He drops into that right and then that left before he comes onto that last straight, you know, and you're like, I remember thinking, just don't push the front over. Like, he was going so hard, but he was so perfect. And on that day, like, he wasn't going to slide. He wasn't, you know, it was like he was dialed. There was no way Danny was going to cock that up then. Do you know what I mean? It was just mad to watch it as a commentator. It really was mad thing to commentate on. And that gap just grew and grew and grew all the way down. Like, you know, it's hard to believe your eyes when you see something like that, actually.
In the commentary right at the start, Rob Warner basically says, "This is my tip for the win."
Yeah.
So clearly there was expectation there amongst other people as well. Were you a nervous rider at that point in your career, or did you have a load of confidence?
And like any 18 or 19-year-old today, they aren't nervous, you know. No, they're nervous, don't get me wrong, you're nervous. But you have that probably less responsibility, you know, it just is what it is. And I think that whole week, because I think with World Champs you get a little more practice, and I'd had a great time all week. I was loving the track. Like they said, when I did the big whip at the finish, I'd been doing that all week, and I had, and that run was just like any run I'd had all week. You could have sent me back up and I would have done the same again.
We knew Danny was a potential winner from how he was riding and the track and stuff. I just remember how hard Danny was going out the start. So straight away, as a commentator, you're like, whoa, this is amazing. And obviously Danny's English, so you know you have your favourite riders and stuff, even as a commentator or a team manager or whatever. But on that day, you know, we were all rooting for Danny. You know what I mean? So when he shot off out the start like that, we were like, well, this is on. And then it's like being in a race yourself. Your adrenaline goes through the roof and you're super excited, you know, and then the rest of the footage just shows it was one of the most incredible, exciting runs ever.
What do you think Danny did differently that led to a nearly 12-second margin?
To me, Champéry was one of those tracks you're going to lose it, right? You're always going to probably back it off just a little bit to ride smooth, stay on line, not make big mistakes. And I think Danny just attacked the whole way down.
Yeah.
And so, you know, and he got it right. He was just carrying speed everywhere. And, you know, I think everyone else was a little bit more hesitant, trying to make sure that they didn't, you know, it was really narrow. I remember it being super narrow. So it was quite easy to go into the edge and then drop down off tracks. So you had to be cautious, but I don't think Danny was. And he looked like he was having a good time. I mean, to throw in a few whips down the bottom, and you know, it looked like he was confident and just attacking the whole way down to the bottom.
When Danny crossed the finish line, the clock told the story. Over 11 seconds up, 11. In downhill, that's an eternity. The crowd went mad, and in the commentary booth, Rob Warner and Nigel Page lost their minds in a way that still gives me goosebumps to this day.
The skills he's got, Rob, his feet up now, he's pedalling, he does another pull-up. Danny Hart is something else. He's gonna smash it. Your bike, Danny. He is gonna smash it. He loves these jumps. He's even gonna fly. He is an absolute legend. He's gonna smash that time. That bar spot. Look at the time, man! Danny Hart, well, I think he's going to be world champion. He's got his world champion, Rob. I'm going to give you a high five like Brett Tippy. Danny Hart is an absolute legend.
I feel like one of my favourite shots from that run is there's a shot where I'm coming down over the things into the finish. So it's not even doing the big whip. That's pretty cool. But after that, there's a couple more jumps, and then the car park effectively is elevated, so you're dropping down off the steps, and I was just going down, and I think it's maybe 2 or 3, and just the shot from behind and then through the finish, and that was pretty awesome. And then just circling in the finish line, and yeah, it was pretty good memories.
Talking of memory, I asked Danny what was his one image he remembered from that weekend, and funnily enough, the image that he remembered was actually just a shot from the live stream, which obviously he would have seen afterwards, but it was just him cruising down into the finish line over the kind of tarmac car parks as he dropped into the finish line. And it's funny that his memory is that third person view of it almost. That's how poor his memory is of his own experience.
But I doubt he would remember his race run. I don't know, if you're ever having a really good race run, I don't know, talking from personal experience, but I never could really remember it. I couldn't, you'd remember the things around it, perhaps, like people shouting or whatever, or this or that. But if you have a really good race run, then I think you're so focused. You're almost on autopilot, you're just reacting as you're going. And I mean, clearly with that, which is mountain biking, downhill's greatest race run, I'd imagine the focus was there. So maybe that's why he can't remember any of it. You know what I mean? Like, he would have been all in on that track. Like, everything else don't matter. And maybe he can only remember hitting the tarmac at the bottom because that was the moment when he'd done it.
Every time I see that on Pink Bike or on Insta or anytime someone reposts it, like, I could honestly watch it for the rest of my life every single day, and I think I'll still get the same goosebumps and still get the same as when I was there in the finish line watching him come over that line and being like, oh my God.
I actually watched it just before coming here.
Yeah.
I got those goosebumps.
You just do, like with Rob commentating, Pager just going absolutely mental in between each Rob's commentary, like winning by 11 seconds at World Champs, just absolutely destroying everyone. Like, everyone looked like they were struggling, like fuck, and he just looked like he was having the time of his life. So
Danny crosses the line. Like, the emotions coming out of you and Paige are just, like, genuinely, everyone I speak to now that I ask about it, they all say to me that it gives them a shiver down their spine no matter how many times they watch it. You must have felt incredible in that moment as well.
Hard to say, really. He definitely would have been pretty drunk at that moment. So I can't really remember. Because he wasn't last down, was he?
No, there was another 5 riders.
Yeah, so he hadn't won it. So you couldn't celebrate it, although it was hard to believe at that point that anyone was going to beat him, that's for sure, yeah.
You might have been drunk in that moment, but you, in that moment, you produced one of the greatest one-liners in mountain biking.
Thank you.
What was that one-liner that you produced?
That one-liner was, how does Danny Hart sit down with balls that big?
How does Danny Hart sit down with balls that big, dude?
It was perfect, wasn't it? That was probably the best timed, highest profile after his performance line I ever delivered, really. Like, it was that big, that line, that Lance Armstrong tweeted it and said, listen to these commentators, and he put the whole run up. And he actually quoted, look, yeah, how does Danny Hart sit down with balls that big? So yeah, but I was pumped with that, actually. I was pumped that it had made it even to like the biggest road pro there's ever been. It travelled far, didn't it?
Do you think the commentary elevated the run, or was it the run that was so good that then elevated the commentary?
That's a good question, really. There's no elevating Danny's run. It speaks for itself, right? So I think the commentary fits the race run, right? And it fits that era, and that energy fits the greatest downhill race run of all time. There's no doubt about that. You can't have commentary without that run. It's all about Danny's run. That's it. We just accompanied it.
How long did it take you for actually to see the commentary after you did the race run?
Yeah, good question. I don't really know. Probably the next day or something. I don't remember.
And had you, like, because obviously the reaction, I guess back then social media wasn't really a thing,
no.
But even so, like, the reaction must have been already, you'd noticed there was something a bit different.
Well, at the time, no, because you've just done whatever you do every Saturday or Sunday. Like, within the next few days, I guess so, yes. But I had no idea the commentary had been like it had. But yeah, they'd had a couple of beers, I think, hadn't they? And it's a bit more of a loose programme than it is these days.
How often do people quote, like, Rob and Page's quotes?
Yeah, I was just telling someone the other day, it can be quite awkward sometimes. You can be sat in a lift line or something and some random guy will say, how does Danny Hart sit down with balls that big? And I'm like, yeah, cool. It's quite a lot, and you've got to take it as it comes, because I had to do something quite special, they did something quite special, so as a team we made a bit of a masterpiece there, I think.
This wasn't just a world title, it was the run of a generation. The moment that proved a young rider could rise out of nowhere and dominate the biggest stage of all. Nearly 15 years later, people still recall Champéry like it happened yesterday. For his fans, his fiercest competitors, icons of the sport, and for anyone who's ever watched, that run is unforgettable. If you had to sum up Danny's win in one sentence, what would it be? You can have a think on this one.
No, I don't even need to think. It's the greatest downhill race run of all time. I think that's it. To win Worlds by 12 seconds, that is untouchable. Yeah, and I've commentated a lot of amazing standout race runs. You can count them on one hand, but that is above them all. It is.
To be honest, like, it's one of the greatest race runs of all time, and Rob's commentary and just the whole thing, and Danny like whipping it at the finish, the whole thing was epic. I'm not gonna lie, as a competitor, I don't think I probably watched that run for a long time. Like, I was pissed that I felt like I gave away a possible win. So as a competitor, you kind of could care less what the dude that won did, because you're like, you feel like you could have potentially beat him. So every other dude out there would say the same thing. So yeah, it was an incredible run, but I think for me, I was more bummed on what happened to me than like excited to watch his lap. So it probably took me a long time to actually watch that run.
Looking back now, where do you place that run in downhill history?
Oh, I mean, it's got to be top 3 for sure. No? Wouldn't you say?
Many have said it's the most iconic.
Yeah, I have no doubt. I mean, it's really hard to put it against anything that happened like in the early 2000s or late 90s, because we just don't have the footage really. And we're lucky to have that period through the Freecaster years where we had access to like, digital TV, prior to that, there was like a period of nothing. So
Sure.
We were lucky, it worked.
What do you think allowed him to ride like that on the day?
I don't know, because obviously it's so different for every single person, and I can't say because I'm not him. He was on such a high that year, and he had such good results, and he was riding so well, and he's so good in the steep stuff and the wet stuff. I think it all just accumulated, and yeah, the right day, right time, and he fucking sent it, and it paid off. We've got Andrea Lekondagui right now interrupting our interview, and Taya Erlinson. What was your view on Danny Hart's 2011 run?
One of the first world champs I ever watched was Danny Hart. I was in Cape Town on like a huge projector at my friend's house, and we watched the whole finals, and everyone was dying, like completely just looking like absolute wobblers. And then Danny Hart came down and just, as you might know, put on a steamer like you can't believe. And I remember viscerally being like, holy moly. Like, you need to watch all of the other runs to watch his run to go like, oh my God, that was insane. And I mean, if 11 seconds doesn't resonate well with real people, like you need to watch the other people who are like really good at riding bikes to watch him to go like, whoa.
Do you think it was the most iconic?
I do, yeah. I'm not gonna be humble, I do think it is. Like the time gap, the conditions, the commentary makes it quite special as well. But I do think it's probably one of the most iconic.
You were probably the most famous mountain biker in the world for a while after Champéry.
Yeah.
Did you have to do a load of mainstream media appearances?
I don't know whether there was mainstream media, but Giant had me flying here, there and everywhere doing shows, and yeah, it was quite overwhelming because I'm just a quiet kid, and just a lad who likes riding his bike.
Massive congratulations to Danny Hart. Look at that rod, that is some sight to see. Absolutely unbelievable. Danny Hart never winning the Junior World Championship, but he's put it all right here this afternoon. It's Champéry.